I'm Justin Tuminowski, Sub 2 student, Owners Club, all the communities. But we have a very special one we are calling Squad Up Summit 2025 Afterparty. And I have all the hosts that you know so well and listen to on the regular. So I'm very excited for this one. It's a special episode. I want you to sit back, relax, hang out with us. And we're going to talk about a breakdown on the Squad Up Summit. And I want to just get everyone's take and digesting from a long weekend in Dallas. So without further ado, I want to get right into it. Ladies first, we have Ingrid Hernandez, and I want her to just introduce herself. And like I said, we're going to go through all the hosts. We'll hit some takeaways. We're going to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, where we are personally. We all get different takeaways. We all get different perspectives. And I think that you guys could also benefit from either coming to the next Squad Up, which you should. And if you've already been there and you haven't, maybe you don't know how to execute and you don't know how to digest these big events because they're overwhelming, this is for you. Ingrid, please.
Thank you, guys. Ingrid Hernandez. I've been in Sub 2 for over 4 years. Also an Owners Club, Get Creative podcast host since it was divvied out to all of us. So great privilege to be here. And yeah, should we just go around and say who's you?
Yeah, I think we should go hit the hosts. We'll go to Jordan, Keola.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Ingrid, Keola, great to actually hang out with you guys in Dallas for a bit. That was so fun. I'm Jordan Wittenberg. I'm based in Boise, Idaho. Sub 2, a couple years here in Owners Club, and been hosting Get Creative podcast along with Ingrid and Justin and Keola for the past year or so. And yeah, excited to dive in because it was just a whirlwind of networking and inspiration, motivation, tactics, all combined. And Justin crushed it on stage. That was really inspiring to see, I think, for a lot of community members saying like, hey, this isn't just the Pace and Jamil show, as incredible as they are. They're empowering leaders to take the lead in this industry. And it was really, really cool to see Justin do his thing up there. So as far as just the only thing I'm doing, we're really focused on professionally, I'm creating a sports agency with another Owners Club member, Devon Alexander, helping athletes invest in real estate creatively and put their money in assets where, you know, a lot of times athletes don't know what to do with their money. And now with college athletes and NIL deals, pro athletes, it's very common that they go broke at the end of their careers. We want to help them navigate that and provide some financial literacy. And I've been a coach for 12 years in basketball, and Devon has built a real estate portfolio nearly $100 million through Sub 2 strategies all across the country. And so we've partnered together. We're squatting up, as they say, and I'm going to be helping athletes with their finances moving forward and just serving them in a different way, along with a lot of personal development with it.
Jordan, that was really cool to hear you told me that. It's different, right? It's different and aligns with your Mount Everest and, you know, all the things that you're so passionate about. So that was really cool to hear that. I just wanted to interject there because it's unique. It's different. It's not just, I'm going to do co-living. I'm not going to do multifamily, microfamily, whatever. So shout out to you for that. That was awesome. Keola.
Yeah, guys, grateful to be here with this power team of 3 that are big rock stars here in our industry with the community. I'm Keola Kala, based out of Utah, bounced between here and Hawaii. I've been a part of the Gator community for about 18 months now. So relatively newer to the space of real estate in general, but love in every step of the way. Mainly focus on private money lending, specifically towards transactional funding and helping others get their first deals and learn and grow together. So that's a bit about me.
Bro, that was so good. All right. So we're here to do the after party for Squad Up. Ingrid, I guess we on the pre-show were having a discussion, and, you know, I think we all have unique perspectives. So do you want to share with the audience just, you know, what your perspective was from it, what your takeaway was? Because, you know, we all think that we have to go there and we have to meet 50 friends, meet as many people. Speed date is sort of what it turns out to be. And you just go take photos, meet people, see what they're doing, see what's going on and get their blink card. However, you know, we have to be tactical. And then a lot of folks will come to you as a leader in this community. You're a rock star here. You are always present. You're always there. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. I just recently texted you about a month ago. And you helped and you gave some value. So give your perspective, if you don't mind.
Yeah. You know, people asked me like, what was your intention going to Squad Up? And for me, like Squad Up just started, right? Because Squad Up was last year and then this year. We kind of took over somebody else's a few years ago. Their event, just so many of us went out there to, and it actually started there. It started cultivating there. We're like, wait, we should be having our own events because the type of culture and energy that Pace and Jamil create just creates such a love fest. That's the only thing I could call it, where you genuinely see so many people wanting to see you win. And I can always find those who haven't been in our communities a while. They're brand new because they're starting to learn about what this looks like and how, again, the Love Fest works. But going to Squad Up, having been in this community for so long, for me, my original intention was like, hey, this is going to be like maybe my last hurrah. I don't know. Like, I want everybody to understand that even though I've been doing investing for technically 3.5 years, I have had my ups and downs trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to focus on. Through the No One Left Behind challenge stuff that I've been doing with Pace, I've recognized right away that I can be the credible source and education for a lot of people, and I haven't been taking advantage of that. So I had my revelation at Squad Up. My intention originally to go to Squad Up was like, I'm going to go see all my friends that I've known for a while, like Justin Tuminowski, you know, Jordan Wittenberg. Like, I was just going to really just be like, hey, I love you guys. I think I might exit and get back into the W-2 world and create more stability for my family. Having experienced the headwinds that flipping has caused in Arizona for the last 1.5 years. But rather, Squad Up gave me almost a 180 experience where instead of me feeling like I was saying goodbye, I was surrounded by people who are so amazing, so talented, want to see you succeed, want to see you win. And I was restored. Like, instead, I was supported in my revelation that came to me, which was like, and this is a kind of a tie into Tim's story, being on the platform and on stage and just talking about like your revelation will come to you. It was wild. It was wild to see it happening to me at Squad Up. Like, all of a sudden I was like, I should be educating people. I should be educating agents. There's so many people that complain about agents in our industry if they haven't taken the time to educate them. And I'm like, I'm going to take that time to educate them. I'm going to take that time and that ability that I've had in the way that I've supported so many sub-2 students that they can feel comfortable sending them to me. And I'm going to put all process and procedures that I know I can to help those agents come along the journey with us in this investing, world. Seriously, bring around Bobby Souza, Kyle Kurzel, as I don't know how to say his last name, but he says, these were all my nerds. And honestly, they fed my soul so much in figuring out what my next step should actually be. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So the creative agent, that's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean, guys, if you didn't hear that, Ingrid is being vulnerable. She's actually, people seek her advice. She educates, she has wisdom. We all love and respect her, but also there are ups and downs and there's cycles in this game and there's ebbs and flows, and she's realistic in realizing that. So I'm glad you didn't use that as a departure. I would not have known how to react, I think, if you told me that in person, just so you know. I would have been like, yeah, April Fools, it's April 1st.
I love Justin, that Ingrid shared that kind of made me really think about my approach to Squad Up. Very similar, right, Ingrid? So for you to share that, man, thank you for sharing that. That's so impactful for so many people listening. Mm-hmm. But similar to that, right? Like, I think so many of us burn our candles, right? Like, we are burning our candles on both ends, really in the grind every single day. And a lot of people look like, especially to you three, right, to have this, like, oh, they're the subject matter expert. They've got everything solid, right? They must be crushing it. And that's not always the case, right? You talk about facing headwinds. And so for me, I felt the same way at Squad Up, where I had this game plan in place. I had these goals I wanted to accomplish. These people wanted to meet specifically. But what I found myself doing from day one was, I felt like you take a candle and you match up to another candle and the flame burns brighter. And I felt like I was at Squad Up just being fed other people's flame. They helped ignite my fire. And by the end of Squad Up, there was like a bonfire burning that just gave me this energy and excitement that you shared to step back into it and really push forward. And so for you to say that, like, it just made me think, like, man, I went with this little flicker and I came back with a bonfire behind me, like just gasoline ignited.
Oh, good.
That's really cool. I think, Keola, you phrased it like you have headwinds against you. And it reminded me of something that Pace taught on at the last Owners Club retreat, which is flying into the direction of the wind is what creates the lift. And he was using the storyline of that airlines, they change the direction of the runway every 2 to 8 hours to adjust to the wind's direction. And it kind of ties into this Mount Everest idea where you see all the resistance, all the things that are going against you. And at Squad Up, the first speaker we got to hear from was Stacey Allison, who was the first American woman to summit Mount Everest. And Pace uses Mount Everest as a symbol, sort of for whatever your grand vision is for the next 5 years or so, for those not familiar with that. I had a lot of takeaways from her journey specifically because it can scare people when you see after base camp, the degree of adversity, the things, it only gets harder the higher you get and more treacherous. And it can discourage people from even starting to begin with. And so I think it's important to know the reality of what you may be in for, even though you may not have the clear picture up front. You got to have a certain courage to even take that step. And it's why a lot of people don't even begin. One of the things David Goggins mentioned was that, don't be afraid to fail at something that some don't even have the courage to start. And so much around Squad Up and what Pace teaches is getting clear on your vision, getting clarity of vision. And when you have these conversations with people that are working towards the same thing, sometimes yours can even fit within theirs. And that's really cool when you partner up with someone and you can help one another. But I see a common theme across so many of these speakers, which is oftentimes there's some degree of pain or struggle. And Justin, you're an example of this, and you were vulnerable enough to share that struggle of, you kind of being caught up in the wrong crowd early on and that influence almost completely derailing your life. And it wasn't until you separated from that you started to take the right steps towards where you are now. And it just ties to what Stacey was talking about, how critical it is to surround yourself with the right team. And that's why I think we get such a buzz at Squad Up, because we're around all these entrepreneurs, or even if they're not on that part of their journey, they're hungry to learn and grow. And so it's just that feeling of being around people trying to level up that is contagious and infectious. And when you get the right people around you, that's how you survive. Because Stacey was sharing the self-talk of every step of this journey up Mount Everest. She kept saying to herself, nothing can stop us. Nothing can stop us. And it wasn't even just me. Nothing can stop me. She saw herself as part of the collective. And when you're trying to summit Mount Everest, those people around you in your circle and their attitude, their energy, their voices, that all affects the group. And it seemed like there were points on that journey, they were ready to give up, a few people ready to throw in the towel, and someone needed to rally them. And we all need that in our own ways within our own teams, that fortitude of mental strength. And so there's many common themes across the speakers, but that decisiveness, clarity of vision, and getting around the right people are a few critical aspects that I saw across the board.
Hey, Jordan, tell me if I'm wrong. Did Stacey say that not one person on her team failed to summit Mount Everest? They all executed on her trip?
So they were all like right before that final point. And remember, there was an oxygen tank, and they were, I thought, drawing straws for it to see who was going to go to the top for that final stretch. And Stacey, what was one of them?
So I missed some of her second speech, but I thought she said that no one had failed. My understanding, maybe I could be wrong, but either way, that was the whole teamwork. And then I think there was someone asked a question, and I won't even remember the exact question, but it was along the lines of, do you need the team? And I think she said, it was shockingly, she's like, no, I don't need. Does anyone remember that? I think it was in the sit down, the first session that she did for Owners Club or for VIP. Someone had asked a question, and it was just surprising where she's like, I didn't rely on them fully. Ingrid or Jordan, you guys don't remember that?
She didn't. I mean, she was so resolved and tough. You could just tell that when she started speaking, just her certainty about herself.
Yeah.
For a woman to take something like that on, or a man, anybody to climb Mount Everest is ridiculous. But she had a certainty about her, and she knew how critical it was to have the right people around her. But it was almost like, I've kind of made up my mind.
I'm going.
That nothing stop. Yeah, I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's what it was. And she's like, I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn. So I can respect that. But at the same notion, that is a big one thing that I realized is the squad that I was with. And, I did speak about early on. It was actually, I didn't realize it was 20 years ago. It seems like such a long time now when you put it that way, but like 2005 was in the story I talked about with some friends of mine or prior friends. And, I look at my circle that I was with on this entire weekend, and we stayed pretty tight, mainly ate dinner together and hung out most of the same time, but we're really trying to bond and we're really doing some bigger things together. It was really cool to reflect back on, the crew that I had right now. And then we go out for dinners, and there's extensions of that within the community. So it doesn't have to be the initial one squad, but then there's layers of it. And you might do a project with this person and you might do a project with these two. And then all of you guys might be on one project. But the cool thing is everyone gets along. Everyone's eating dinner, sharing, breaking bread, and we're talking about business. Last thing I'll share is, so when everyone left, my wife and I stayed out for about another day and a half. So I left Wednesday. So Tuesday we went, did some sightseeing, really just one day of sightseeing. And we came back to the hotel, walked around, get some exercise. And then we sat in the lobby with our laptops to do a little bit of work. And there was another conference, man. They pumped the conferences in and out. It's a new set of crew, new set of people, a new vibe. Conversations we were hearing while sitting around at this lobby bar hangout lounge, they were so different. They were so painful. They were weather, gossip, complaining. It was pretty negative. And I said, wow. And we looked at each other and we talked about it and we said, these are none of the conversations that we're having with our peers. And it was really, but that also shows growth. So really, really interesting.
And Ingrid put it, a love fest. And if you talk about a difference between Squad Up versus a lot of other conferences, and I've been to lots of real estate agent conferences, and you can feel the egos in the room. And it's like, what can I extract? What can I get out of people? Versus like this was a family reunion type feeling and people just hugging their friends. It was overwhelming walking in the lobby, and I look around, I'm like, oh, there's like 30 people I know within my, line of sight. And you just want to go say what's up and hug people and get caught up. But yeah, it is a different vibe for sure. And it starts with Pace and Jamil setting that tone. I mean, before every speech and every time they go up daily, they're high-fiving and hugging and, hey man, I love you, brother. I'm so proud of you. You don't really feel that at other events. And it's almost like the speakers are tucked back in like their own little elite hub. And there's still, there's some handful of that to a degree, but the night before we started, I'm in the hallway with Jerry Norton, and he's just chopping it up with everybody for 2 hours, and Wes Grant, and we're all just, the kids are running around playing together, and there's a humanity to it. These guys have very little ego in relation to how much they've accomplished in their careers. And I think that humanity and approachability feeds off into the community, and it is more of a family feel. As corny as that might sound, you might need to be in the lobby at a Squad Up event to even know what we're talking about. So that Love Fest, Ingrid, I thought that was a really good way to describe it.
Keola, was this your first or second Squad Up?
Second. It's my second.
Okay,
Yep.
so it was all of us have been to both.
Yep.
Okay.
We're tied in. We can't miss any of them.
Yeah.
For reals. And I am so proud of Pace, Jamil, their whole staff, because we've now had the pleasure of being at two, right? I think last year they killed it, but I do recall that I spent a lot more time in the hallway. This year, because it incorporated so many of our friends who got to take the stage, like Justin Tuminowski, I was like, I need to be there to support them. I need to make sure they know that like we got them, right? And so the level of step up and integration of the community, I think made such a big difference this year. Like I came back with a hoarse throat, I was yelling and so excited for everybody. And I really think that as we evolve this, guys, we had over 3,000 people. I think they said 3,500. What will next year do, especially since we took so much away from this? This was exactly what I felt my soul needed this year. I got so much clarity going there and having like the right attitudes around me. That's a big opportunity for anybody who might feel they need to be surrounded with the right kind of attitudes, the right kind of visionaries, the right kind of, like, I was technically around a lot more integrators, but one of the things that Pace said that really resonated is stop thinking about the how, focus on the who. And my corporate career has been a lot about the how. I was like literally an integrator for my career. And it was so interesting to hear that, not ever really hear it in the way that I heard. You can hear things in your journey and they don't resonate until you're in a position where it has to make sense for you. And hearing it at Squad Up was such a big difference, even though I've heard it before. You know, and these who's are really the people who are helping lift me up right now. And I could not be more grateful.
Well,
No, it's crazy you share that, right? Like just through this whole journey, Justin, you talked about, the different vibe, right? And Jordan talked about how that vibe is really what attracts this tribe that Pace has around him. Ingrid, you talked on how this amazing tribe creates these phenomenal events, and we can't wait for next year. I invited a friend of mine who is not even a part of the community, right? He does fix and flipping as a side hustle. He has a W-2 that pays him great. But I was like, he reached out to me and said, hey, tell me about this Squad Up. I was like, bro, you got to come. You got to come. He's like, yeah, but is it for me? He's like, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. You got to come. I promise you, it will not disappoint. And mind you, this friend of mine, he goes to 8 to 10 conferences a year for his job. Like he has to go out there, put on a face, network with others. And he comes up to me and he's like, I am so glad I came. This is so different than any other conference I've ever been to. And even though I didn't feel like, he was hesitant because he wasn't a part of the community. He said nobody treated him any different. He felt like now he has to join the community. He felt like he found a space, he found a place. And, he's not part of he wasn't VIP, he wasn't Owners Club. So I had to leave him a lot of time, but I had to go find him. And he was like out there. People brought him in under their wing. They were chatting with him. He had found a lot of connections to do deals moving forward for fix and flipping. I mean, he texted me after we came back. He's like, I'm in it for next year. Like it's for everybody, right? Whether you're community or not, if you're looking for a space to get invigorated, if you're looking for a place to get inspired and be supported in your journey where other circles you might be in may not support you, Squad Up's the place to be. Like, I love it. Like just everything you guys just shared.
So this might sound weird, and tell me if I've never been to a sub-2 related event. Now, I know we've had people have little issues and little things that happen during those events. I've never experienced any real negativity, no fights, no throwing of fists to bottles to anything. Now, again,
This is in Boston, Justin. I'm just kidding.
but I'm saying when you go to events and there's networking and there's all walks of life, I've been to other places and other instances where, they get the crowd, they get alcohol in them and it gets wild. And I gotta say, like, everyone just loves on each other and everyone has a certain amount of respect. Now, if you disagree, that's fine. Katie and I were acknowledging that. And I thought that was pretty important. Just, it's one of those little things that you're not supposed to always think about. You don't think about, but I go, man, you let your guard down no matter what's going on. So no,
that's how I felt last year, right? Like I come from 25 years in the fitness space. So I've been to 1,000 of different fitness conventions, definitely a different vibe, definitely a different atmosphere, definitely a little bit more wild and crazy, like you mentioned, right, Justin? And so just being at Squad Up the first time to now, I'm like, man, this is number one, family friendly, but also just, friends getting together, inspire and uplift each other. Like I really felt that.
Love it. So I want to go around, just do a few takeaways. I know we've alluded to some of those. I'll just go first, just to go right out of the cannon. Really going in there, it was a lot of, obviously very thankful for speaking, and Pace is pushing us and elevating us and pushing and pushing and pushing. I love a good push. I'm a pusher at heart for everyone in my circle and everyone around my atmosphere, but it's good for a change to be pushed, honestly. And Pace is that person. So I respect that, love that. And the cool thing is he's pushing all of us. And I think at one point you're going to see him fade away, Homer Simpson in the bushes, but fade away a little bit. And then because he wants to prop up the Ingrids, the Jordans, the Keolas, he wants to bring everybody up in their own respective right. And that's the coolest part that no one else is doing. No other communities are doing. No other big names are doing, because, it's a new awakening's coming, I think, in the real estate industry. And it's going to be Pace and Jamil at the top, along with their communities. Yeah. So with that being said, going there, a lot of folks want value. We talked about that. They want to exchange value, but a lot of folks need help. And when you become a beacon and you guys are leaders and everyone leads, you start to be a value provider and just a resource for folks. So for me, I was very intentional on making sure that I met everybody, took pictures, did the whole thing, shook hands. We could exchange number, help as much as I could physically. The one thing I was looking for was just I didn't want to be disrespectful to the opportunities and the rooms that we go in. So if you do have a fraction of a moment to be in a room with Tim Storey or David Goggins. Yeah, you don't want to be an asshole, but you want to make sure that you're astute to opportunities and that door that opens. If there is a crack in the door, you open it. So I had 3 contacts. That was my takeaway. I had 3 high-level exchange and contact information that will prosper, hopefully, into other relationships, other industries, other opportunities. So met a bunch of other people, but the 3 I'm going to focus on is just those 3. So that's my takeaway. Who wants to go next?
Go for it, Ingrid.
Well, my takeaway for Squad Up, I think to your point, Justin, there's always a value exchange. I am like the ultimate networker, so I can't help. Like, it's okay that your intentions was like 3. My intention was to, again, my intention changed. My intention going to Squad Up was more of like, okay, this is going to be like my last hurrah. I may have to go back into the W-2 world. Instead, once I got my clarity, my God, we got to work. So I feel like one of my skill sets is that right when I meet a good opportunity or a good relationship, I try to take action right away. So everyone that I met that I felt I could create some value exchange with, I put in my calendar right away. So I didn't just take their information. I said, hey, let's meet for an hour. Let's talk about this, right? And for my between this week and next week, I think in total I have like 6 meetings that are all, in my opinion, very meaningful. But to your point, Justin, it doesn't have to be 100. You just have to go and like, did I blink with everyone? And by the way, that's not an offensive term. Blink is an app that people use to exchange information, and you can actually like pour even more gasoline on it, because every time you blink with somebody or share your information, you can actually integrate that into your CRM. And then now you can actually create an automation, if you will, of staying in front of those folks that you really want to have those true relationships with. Whenever I think I blinked with hundreds of people, but to your point, Justin, I narrowed down, what am I looking for? You know, I have a meeting with somebody about a VA program they have, and like virtual assistants. I'm meeting with somebody about a $25 million deal out here in Arizona. We've got to pull more financials. I'm being asked to be a capital raiser. And so I was like, wow, like, yeah, I should be brokering opportunities with capital, because I've done a really great job about networking with folks. And then what my intention or my focus will be is coaching agents. So like, I had so much takeaway, and it was really about who there could I work with, exchange value, and make something happen. Like, you shouldn't just be going to Squad Up to, kiss babies, shake hands, not just that. It really should be, how am I going to use this to propel myself forward and make something of it? And by the way, Squad Up just attracts the most beautiful people. Something I don't talk about a lot, and I'm really hesitant to talk about. And the reason I'm hesitant to talk about is because I don't want people thinking that I'm using God and Jesus as something to sell. But one of the things that I'm learning is that this whole entrepreneur journey is bringing me closer to God in my relationship with God, because you have to have so much faith, and it will rock you to the core if you don't have something like that to hang on to. I can see how people start drinking or doing drugs or whatever under the amount of stress that you get. And if you don't have a positive outlet, like, that can be really tough for you. But one of the things I thought was not hilarious, but like, I meet a pastor at the bar, and we're just talking about God for the like 2 or 3 hours, I think. We're kind of crying also at the bar, exchanging some really personal, stories. And I was like, I think we're the only one at this bar right now, like having a godly conversation and crying in a good way. But like, this is what's so beautiful about the culture we're building in these communities, that like, your vibe does attract your tribe. And I don't even know what we were talking about, takeaway. But the takeaway is like, I just love the beautiful souls that have been around me and surrounding me, and that I can also contribute to them too, like, as we go through this. And Squad Up was just kind of like the climax of that all for like this past year. It's just crazy.
Good stuff. Jordan.
That's so good. Ingrid, I mean, what you're talking about is a very similar experience in terms of the people that come across your path and those conversations you never knew you needed to have. And it tends to happen at these events. And one thing I'm really mindful of when I'm interacting with people is I listen to how they talk about themselves, and that there's an inner dialogue. You can hear the beliefs that they have about themselves, and in ways that, sometimes it might be like a false modesty thing, but sometimes it's some subconscious things that are limiting them. And I always try to check people when I hear something that I don't think aligns with the truth, and they're telling themselves a story about themselves. Obviously Dean Graziosi is incredible. Cody Sanchez, we know their careers and how impactful they've been, but there were other people on stage there. And Justin is one of them. Duran Levy, he talked about looking at relationships like a bank account almost, where there's deposits and there's withdrawals. And who's going there to actually make some deposits versus who's just there to make withdrawals and take and take. And we had talked about best approaches and networking. And I remember this one guy came up to me during a speaker and he just says, "Can I get your contact info?" I don't know his name, no handshake, no conversation. He just got my blink. And that was it. That was the end of it. And I just thought, it was very surface, and that was the exception, that there was plenty of others. The majority are where you're having a good conversation and then exchanging info. But there was no depth to it. And so we talk about best approaches or takeaways. You got to lead with your heart and come from a place of service, and what can you deposit in others? And then can you care enough to actually listen to somebody's situation and get to know what's like at the heart of what they're talking about? And Steve Harward shared about these heart spark moments. It was a very unique term, but as you go into more depth of these conversations, eventually you can talk about fix and flip or co-living, and then it turns into, well, this is for foster kids. Okay, well, that's great. There's usually a story behind that they're connected to. Oh, this is to protect domestic abuse survivors. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let me just write that in my notes and now I'm on to the next person. No, you probably need to probe it a little bit deeper. And now you get to the heart of it. And now you actually get to know why somebody is doing something, why it matters to them. And it's not for the facade of showing you care. You need to actually care. And Pace and Jamil do such a phenomenal job of this. They genuinely care. And Jamil said he believes it's our God-given duty almost to express the talents he's given us. Put these things to use. And it can start with something as simple as caring about someone and listening to them. And to what I was saying earlier about what this inner dialogue people have. I had a conversation with a guy, his name's Robert Tracy, at the bar, and he talked about, we got to like a rock bottom time of his life, and he's sharing about this rehab experience he went through, and he just has nothing but negativity, how he feels about himself at that stage. And his rehab counselor puts him through this exercise of imagining he's in the room with his 12-year-old self and how he would talk to that version of himself, how he would speak to him. And okay, how is your tone different? Is your empathy different? Are you so negative and down, speaking down to this version of you? And the answer was no. It would have been completely different the way he would have addressed his 12-year-old self, with a different type of compassion and guidance. And he said ever since he did that, it's changed the way he's interacted with himself. All of these things that these speakers talk about, it all comes back to like, how do you do the inner work to get yourself right inside before you can have this version of yourself show up? Like Justin's out there dancing on stage before his speech. That's a different expression of confidence and joy than maybe that 2005 Tuminowski, right? And so he had to do a lot of inner work to get there. And David Goggins phrased it like performing a live autopsy, which is a pretty unique experience. And I thought of that as like, you got to fix and flip yourself. He's talking about building belief in yourself and doing that unseen work and pushing when you don't think you can push anymore and getting through. For those that weren't there, that live autopsy analogy was taking an inventory of all these things within you that are broken or aren't serving you or limiting beliefs, and extracting those and uprooting those so you can make room to plant new things. And Cody Sanchez said, God won't plant something in your heart that he doesn't have provision for, so just kind of connecting all these things, like we have to do that inner work. And Jamil is heavy on this, that guided meditation he did. It's getting rid of these memories, things holding you back, and painting a clear, bright vision of the future that is compelling. And Dean Graziosi's heavy on that. If you don't have a compelling future, you don't know where you're going. He says fuzzy targets don't get hit. Then you're going to just be wobbling and shiny object syndrome for life, and so the last thing I would connect that with is, Steve Harward mentioned putting fear in its place, and Stacey Allison, the same thing, putting it behind you. I think Keola mentioned something about getting it like that headwind. You can view it as a negative thing, or you can use it to propel you. But what all these people across the board have in common is they have put fear in a different place. It's no longer a fortress or an obstacle. They've just reframed it and put it behind themselves. And now they've used it to propel themselves forward. Fear hasn't disappeared. It's not absent. They've just put it in its place. And that's what Stacey Allison had to do to get to the top of Mount Everest, and David Goggins to lose 150 pounds or whatever it was and become who he is now. So there has to be a whole reorganizing of these things, these fear, self-doubt, whatever it is. Get that out the way, get it behind you. And guess what you can do now? Help all the people who are still stuck in that mess and pull them across the other side, as Tim Storey demonstrated, where, hey, you come with me and you're coming with me because I've been where you are, and now it's your job to pull people across to the other side. And Pace was very vulnerable in sharing that story about where he was at a rock bottom moment, all the financial burdens with his dad and his brother committing suicide. And now it's like Pace was at a point where he was ready to drive into the side of a semi-truck and end his own life. And he shares that with the whole audience. And I knew that story before, but for him to share that at Squad Up was really powerful, because there's probably people listening that may be in a similar spot. Different story, but similar feelings of like, is this worth it? Can I keep going? Do I just end it right here? And then Pace gets a call from his mom that just is, hey, just checking up on you. Just wanted to see how you're doing, which is a total God thing, for him to get that call in that moment. And think about how that reroutes the whole story of his career and destiny and what he becomes. But bigger than that, all the people he's impacted since then, and the ripple effect of the Justins and the Ingrids, Keolas, and 1,000 plus other people. By the way, there's 20,000 plus people in his communities that weren't even at the event, and how their lives are changed because of that one call and that one decision to get to the other side of that struggle. It's the people who are able to be resilient enough, get to the other side of that struggle. Who knows what's on the other side and how you can change the freaking world.
Wow. Really good. A lot of good takeaways there, guys. If you didn't pay attention to that, Jordan just went through a lot of the speaker notes, and so effortlessly and so smooth.
Oh, did you script this, Jordan? I feel like I've been like I'm traveling with my family right now. It's like, dang, I did not prep as well as Jordan did.
Oh, good.
But that speaks to your leadership, Jordan, that you do have, even in this podcast, right? It's like you prep. And that's somebody this is not an endorsement, but like, if I was going to put my money on somebody and they're that calculated, one thing Pace says is how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you do everything like that, Jordan, like, sky's the limit.
You think he's a coach?
Yeah. Right.
Keola.
Yeah. Jordan hit so many main points. And I think one of the common themes that Jordan shared that kind of crosses all barriers and all speakers is that, people in life take these moments and either they let it define them or they let it refine them. Right. And so just for those who are going through challenges, for those who are going through ups and downs, which everybody goes through, don't let it define who you are, but let it refine you to the person you want to be. Right. And so I think there was a common theme through all the speakers that kind of gave the hope and inspiration to rise up, right? To be better, to let these challenges in life become that tailwind, not the headwind, or let it propel you forward, and let it be these, let the fire, like flames of a fire that refines metal, let it have this ability to reform you into this new great thing that you want to be. And so, man, Jordan, thanks for hitting up on all those things and just kind of reminding me that, I got to find these moments to refine me, to let me be better. And one of the big takeaways that for me that Ingrid touched on is, everybody goes to these events, right, to squat up, and they have these game plans, and you can see the busy bees at every conference, right? People who are going 1,000 relationships wide. And to Jordan's point, what I like that Ingrid focused on and Justin really honed in on it is, it's not about having 1,000 wide relationships. It's can you get the 10 deep, right? And really have these impactful and intentional conversations that really change each other, right? That you really sit and listen and you sit in it long enough to learn and grow together. Right. Sometimes we're just kind of bouncing around. Thanks. Oh, let me just scan your blink card. See you later. Hey, show me your blink card. Thanks a lot. Hey, shake your hand. Take a picture. All right. Later. Right. And you just see these people just bouncing around like busy bees. But then you see those that I admire that are sitting in the moment, that are like looking eye to eye, knee to knee, hand to hand, and just having these conversations that aren't always about business, but they're conversations that are meant to be held in that moment with each other. And so I just love that you guys highlighted on that. And so I would invite and encourage anybody that comes to the next Squad Up to kind of identify that, like what type of a listener you are, and look for having these impactful and intentional conversations rather than just going as a busy bee to 1,000 different people, right? And to Ingrid's point, I like two things that she shared. One is I do the same thing. I schedule in my calendar a follow-up meeting with those that I feel like we can take it to the next level, and immediately put it there and say, hey, next week, this time, let's connect. Hey, 2 weeks from now, let's jump on a call. And being intentional with your calendar and your schedule to set up the next event, right? Like what's next? And sometimes too many people don't get that next step in place and just move forward without a game plan. And for me, the other thing I like that Ingrid focused on and shared is I'm the same way. I like to call myself a referral zealot. I try to take action on the connections immediately. If I'm talking at the bar and somebody says they need this, and I just chat with somebody who has this, it's almost immediate. Even if I don't even hear their name, like, wait, what? Oh, you know what? Let me walk you over here to this young lady, and this is what she needs, and you've got it. And just kind of have this conversation of immediate implementation over just sitting in it. And so I love that you share that. And so for me, that's kind of my encouragement for those that are preparing for Squad Up next year or any meetup you go to, right? Like, don't just be a busy bee, be intentional and impactful on your conversations.
Keola, actually, that's one of my favorite things is that I try to figure out who could I put together. I swear I should have been a professional matchmaker. That's one of my favorite things to do. It might not bring anything to me. And I do try to be a little bit intentional, be like, hey, just throw a bone or two if it makes sense, right? But if I can share a story, there's a gal who apparently was like seeking me out. Her name is, I'll share her name because I think she was okay with me sharing this. Her name is Precious. I want to say her last name is Prokavia. She's actually from Uganda. And for 2 days, I had been hearing from the staff like, hey, Precious wants to meet you. Like, come over here. I tried hanging out like where I was supposed to be so I could meet this person. Because here's the reality, us being like a Get Creative podcast host and like hosting things in the Zoom, No One Left Behind challenge, all these things, there is a little bit of celebrity to that, which is kind of an interesting thing I've never really dealt with in my life, but like it's come up, right? And I was like, okay, I mean, I can imagine. And I remember back in 2015 when I really couldn't get into investing because people weren't friendly. People weren't so open and they were gatekeepers. And anywho, like eventually I met her once we all kind of renewed our owners club stuff and we were leaving. She was so happy to see me. And I'm like, I'm so happy to see her because I didn't know what her story was. And she's just getting started. She shares with me how she's a nurse, an ICU nurse. She runs a nonprofit to help kids who are going through medical problems, kind of like, and she takes people over to Uganda who are kind of like Doctors Without Borders. She takes staff and raises money for that. And then she's a tax strategist and she has like a group of people that she's helping them figure out where to invest or not invest, more of like wealth management. She brings her question to me about her perspective. She's like, I want a bird dog. And I was like, what? What do you mean you want a bird dog? I was like, you just told me all the things that you do. You're a capital raiser. You're a connector. What do you mean you want a bird dog? And she's like, oh, well, I thought that's how I could, maybe raise enough capital now so I could quit my job sooner. And I literally just one conversation dissected what she needed. And from no, you're a capital raiser. You've raised capital for your nonprofit and you've been able to you should be getting a salary for that. Like She's like, no, I recontribute my salary. I go, no, if you're only working on that 10, 20% and you want to be doing it 100%, you should be getting paid for it so that you can do it for 100% of the time. And she said something like, slap me. And I was like, what? I will not. But it was like a funny thing because she's like, why didn't I connect these dots? And I connected her with Alexis Morgan on the next Raising Capital, with Rosie Cortez to help her on her social media stuff. I connected her with, I connected her with me because we were talking about like how we can work through like the tax wealth stuff that I was like, you have all, like, the only part of this that I'm contributing to is to connect your own dots that you were already holding. And it was wild to see it be in place. And those are my favorite stories where it's like you help people kind of figure it out and you see it happening like right in front of your face where you're like, they're like, why didn't I see that? And by the way, that includes me, right? Like sometimes when it's your own stuff, like it's really hard for you to figure out what to look through, like how to make those connections.
Put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
And I've had one. Chris Geddes gave me one recently at my house, and it was just as simple as, schedule wise. He's like, you do too much of the instructor coaching for inside the community. He's like, you want to free it up? I'm like, yeah, I got to reduce my calendar. He's like, how about just put 1 day a week or 2 days a week with a select time? I'm like, that is the dumbest, smartest thing I've ever heard. It's like one of those things you know better, but it's a different bird's eye view. It's a different perspective. And it's just, when you're in your own world, sometimes we got to be slapped or whatever it is. But I love that, man. So many good takeaways. I almost want to see if we can do a 2-part series here.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
And I said, we did the follow-up. How are we going to execute follow-up? We went through that. Ingrid laid it really well in there, immediately implement, put it in the calendar, reach out to those folks. And this is all these things that you heard, everyone's sharing is you can implement this in any of your local sub-2 creative finance, Gator, top tier meetups across the country. They're always going on. If you don't know where they're going, go check the maps, check the local leadership. And whether you're in the community or not in the community, I think that's vital. And don't speed date, be intentional. And then Keola, you said something I just wanted to share. I also noticed this where I might not build the relationship on the first meeting, the second meeting, the third, but it's what happens. You start to cultivate a little bit more and more. And then sometimes it's just a natural, things have to, for me anyway, it has to be a natural progression. And sure, I could be more intentional and be a lot more intentional on getting in front of that person and extracting and giving and extracting. Sometimes I'm not. And I just like to organically build. And I've noticed that the second go around, third go around, we get comfortable. We go for dinner, go for lunch, go for breakfast. And then now it's not so hard to just jump on a Zoom or a call and collaborate. So don't be afraid that you have to do it all in one sitting, get your first 10 and then the next 5 are going to come from the second squad up or the second meeting. So just wanted to share that. Any last takeaways, guys? And I think we should put your Instagrams or whatever you want to however you want to get a hold of folks to reach out. Let's get it out there. Here's our time. Fill out the audience, hear from everyone. We're always asking the questions. We're always interviewing everybody else, but now it's your time. And anyone listening out there, please love on these guys. Love on Ingrid, love on Jordan, love on Keola. And if you have something of value, speak up. Ingrid.
Well, I think my final takeaway is really how much this community gives you just as much as you have to give it. It's a symbiotic relationship. And I'm very, very grateful that somehow Pace landed on my YouTube back in 2020. And 4.5 years later, whatever it is, like this is where that relationship has flourished to. So you never know who you might meet, what conversation you might have, what clarity you might get. And so as you go through your journey, and if you ever decide to come to Squad Up, come. Doesn't matter whether or not you're in the community, and really keep that open mind because you never know what might come of it. Worst case scenario is you'll have a good time. You'll meet fun people, I think, like us, and hopefully you go home a little more refreshed, even if that's the worst case scenario. So as far as getting a hold of me, you can find me on Instagram, Ingrid, INGRYD. I'm the first one that shows up if you spell it that way. And if you're thinking about needing to think more like an investor and you need a smaller venue to do that in, go to totalagentcoach.com. And that is starting a wait list so that we can go through that coursework and what that support mechanism is going to look like.
Ingrid, what was that website again?
TotalAgentCoach.com to get on the wait list.
Dope. All right. Jordan.
Yeah. Thanks, Ingrid. That was really good. I think, when you talk about these takeaways and you hear similar takes across the board, it's like, okay, it's one thing to hear the message and it's another to actually internalize it and implement it. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. Can you hear these things and actually believe they're true for you? Because I walked away from, without naming names in this case, a lady who just said, I've heard this before. I've heard it all before. And almost like a discouraged tone to it. And my take from that is like, it didn't make it any less true. And she even had the caveat of, it's all right. Not it's all right, like it's all correct. It's all true. But as I talked to her, she didn't believe it was possible for herself. And this is the breakthrough point. When people start to actually align their beliefs with the truth of what's being taught, that's when it clicks for people. And I want to encourage people to stick with it and believe what's true for themselves. Steve Harward said, your story doesn't exist without the challenges you've been through. That's true for everybody. And so for those people who are in that challenge right now, in that storm, in whatever that looks like for you, that's part of your story. Be okay with that and keep pushing, get through to the other side of it. And get through to the other side of it. Now you can be in a place where now you can help others who are behind you and dealing with the same thing. And it's a different level of relatability when you've been there yourself and you can speak to someone who's in it. And so I want to encourage people to not give up on that and start to come into alignment with what's actually true. Because if you don't do that, you're choosing to stay in alignment with things that are not true. And that's a dangerous place to be. And you can't expect to break through any other way. That was, I think that's just so fundamental and foundational to everything. And Ingrid, you said, I don't want people to think I use God or Jesus as a way to, promote yourself. But the point you're making with it is it's foundational for you. You have a solid rock and something to keep you centered. And that's the value in that. And so I would encourage people to also have that. Have that peace about you and that internal strength, because doing that inner work starts with that foundation. And without that, you're going to be off balance. So that's just my final takeaway on that, and encouraging people in that area. You guys can find me on Instagram, Jordan Wittenberg. My last name is WHITTENBURG. And our sports agency is dvsportsgroup.com. And that DV stands for Divine Vision. It's also Devon Alexander's nickname, or in his first name. And we do believe this is a combination of our vision, but it's been planted in us by God. And we're trying to help people see themselves the way God sees them, which is totally loved, totally accepted, and totally capable. And let that fuel their belief. And as they pursue what's been put on their heart, their vision, their dream, letting that foundation inform them and be the root of everything they do.
Well said. Keola.
Yeah, you bet. So first off, thank you guys for this opportunity to chat with you guys and do this kind of squad up recap. Definitely a huge blessing to be with you guys and learn together. Jordan, as you were sharing those things, it made me really think that no matter where you guys go, what event it is, or what speaker you listen to, there's so many things that are being thrown out there, right? And in life, it's not about what's thrown, it's about what's caught, right? And there's so many things people can throw out, but it's really what really matters is what you catch, right? And we can all catch different things. And to Jordan's point, if we catch those things, how do we take action on it and step forward to be our true best selves? And so I love that you shared that. Coming from the islands, a phrase that is very common in the islands is crabs in a bucket, right? So common. I'm sure it's common on the East Coast as well, right? But just that mentality in so many different spaces that, crabs are in a bucket pulling each other down, that you don't need to have a lid because they'll hold each other back. And so I share that phrase because if you're looking for a community that'll help propel you forward, if you're looking for a community that'll support you no matter what phase of life you're in, whether it's personal, spiritual, business, whatever it is, this is the community for you, right? This is a community that we don't act like crabs in a bucket. We're not here to pull each other down, but we're here to collaborate and propel forward. And if you're kind of searching for that in your own life, this community, whether it's squad up attendance in person or a local meetup, being a part of Pace Morby's community of sub 2 gate or top tier C, you're going to get the opposite of crabs in a bucket. You're going to get that fire to help ignite you and propel you forward. So if you want gasoline thrown on you, join the community. If you're not ready for it, this might not be the best place for you, but that would be my takeaway. And what I want to let people know is if you want to do those things and not be held back like a crab, join us.
Yeah, well said. I was going to say only you guys might know this. So anyone listening that's from the community, you can also be a cockroach, because Pace has called us. She's like, I'm a cockroach. You won't kill me. There's a reason why they're so old, but if you don't know what that means, you would think it's a negative. Also, ants make bridges using each other so the others can walk over. It's so gnarly. But now, guys, if the last hour has been super impactful, you guys got a sniff. You got a moment.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Keola, where can people find you?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Keola_Kala on Instagram.
Wait, spell that for me. Because we're not all islanders.
It's just got to flow right off your tongue, guys, So it's KEOLA_K.
See, guys, he even had to pause. He knows.
Yes.
That's a lot of vowels in there. So
thank you, Ingrid. Well, guys, there was a lot said. It's so good. We're a community. We're a movement. And this is just the beginning. We want to take this time. Everyone took their time. This is a Saturday. Everyone wanted to get together. And we all just said, hey, let's go brain dump on these folks. Let's love on people. Let's give some value to the folks who weren't there. Maybe you were there. Maybe you missed some of the speakers. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you really listen to it again. And there's a lot of great takeaways, but just go out there and execute. You have all the Instagrams, you have all the ways of contacting everybody here, these leaders that are in this group and these co-hosts of mine. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you to Pace Morby. Thank you for the entire community. That's the Get Creative podcast, guys. Thanks for listening.